Hey y'all, grown black folks talk. Back out on the climb. A day between the great floods of California. Still at high ground. I'm doing well. I appreciate those of you that have expressed your concern. I'm doing well. My family, my grandmother took a second look at the plans when they were purchasing the house my family lives in. And she talked to my grandfather about two things. First of all, we have to be on bedrock, and we have to be on somewhat elevated ground. And grandmother's wisdom combined with grandfather's wisdom and putting the resources together, we're okay for right now. So thank you for your concern. But I want you to consider the raindrops as part of our consideration of consider the power of small, consistent moves. We spend a lot of time. I've seen a lot of interesting things. I've had a lot of great conversations. And what I've observed about these interesting things and great conversations that I've had, we spend a lot of time as black people and as black women worrying about movements that our generation did not even start. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. birthday celebration is this Saturday. It's a national holiday, MLK Day. And since I shared that birthday with him, I've carried that my entire life. You can't be a nobody and be on King's Day. But that already put me in mind at a mere 5 years old that I had to be about doing something. Well, if you're going to get things done, it starts step by step. Let's go back to the situation in California right now. Do you know that each and every one of these terrible flooding situations started with a group of small and consistent raindrops? One of them alone could be caught on your tongue and disappear down your gullet and not even make a significant impact on your urine. Taken together over 12 to 16 hours, they can put you out of house and home. A small example. We think a lot about big movements and big currents because we know that they have swept people before us away. But you know what people do with things like that? The small, consistent average with hammers and nails and wood and build a boat. On the largest possible macro scale that most of us have ever heard about. If you have been to church with your black elders, they have probably talked about Jesus Christ being the ark of safety. And so the idea is that Noah's ark is a picture of human beings being preserved from judgment because they chose to have faith and get in the ark. So the idea is humankind is going to be under great judgment for its sin, but there's safety in coming to Christ. So sometimes you don't even have to build a boat. Someone else has already built a boat for you. On the largest macro scale that we as African Americans have discussed, Noah put in 120 years building that boat, and God put all of time coming down to eternity to get his son, the Lord Jesus Christ, to that cross. So some things on a macro scale are really scary, but some things on a macro scale, solutions exist. It kind of depends on whether you want to go for them. Shameless plug for Jesus Christ. Your elders were right. You want to get into the ark of safety. But if you choose not to do that, you're still going to have to do what? Attempt to build a boat. And if we come all the way down from the macro scale to where boats have been built and you may still want to try to build your own, all the way down, you still have to build a boat. And you know how you build a boat for everyday life? You build it small, consistent steps. Boats are not built by fiat. They have to be built day by day, action by action. There is no way to overestimate the power of small, consistent moves from individuals as they get into step with each other. Okay, so there's a recession going on. That's a big current. It's going to sweep a lot of people away. Okay, here's some small, consistent steps. First of all, do what you need to do to survive a recession. But also, a small, consistent step is learn a little bit about how capitalism works and learn about things to invest in at a time like this. And even if you can only do $1 a day, which is $7 a week, which is less than $31 a month at max, that's something. And then you do it consistently. I started in Bitcoin with $15 a week in 2020. That's all I had. And then sometimes when you start on doing the thing that's right for you to do, resources become available. Donald Trump figured it out, and then Joe Biden figured it out a little bit longer. And then work began to come back. So all three of us began to add materials for me to put into an investment portfolio. So tiny though it be, but it's there. It's a little boat. Now, my father and grandfather, my mother and grandmother, have all worked together to build a boat. I told you, my grandmother bought a house that's on bedrock at relatively high ground. So that's a boat I didn't have to build, but while I'm in the boat, just in case anything goes wrong, and because nothing lasts forever, we're in earthquake country when we don't have floods, so what am I doing? I'm building a boat. A couple of them. It is what it is, y'all. So, how do we do this? Well, every company is building a boat for itself. And this is the main thing in capitalism. Decrease your liabilities, increase your assets. Pay down your debts, increase things that make money for you. Anybody can do this. You don't have to be mad at people about the corporate taxes. You ain't got to be mad about Republicans. You ain't got to be mad about what Democrats are not doing. This is what you do. Survive the recession the best you can. If you need to take on debt to do that, you do it. But you learn how other people are going the opposite way, and when you can, you do that. People will tell you, well, you need to pay all your debts before you invest. Nope, not true. That's not true at all. However, it is true that if you have a lot of debt, the interest rates on that debt are eating up your investment capital. That is true. Nothing stops you from learning what you need to do. I would say paying down debt first is a better idea. But nothing stops you from investing in this consistently. Maybe just a little per day. I just dropped a little secret on you. Like I said, what are all companies trying to do? And if you can do it, you can be a capitalist. Decrease your debt, increase your life, increase your assets. That's it. That puts you on a level with the Fortune 500. Because that's what they're doing every day. They're seeking to reduce their liabilities and increase their assets. If you ever take accounting, you're going to find out that a balance sheet has two things going on. You have liabilities and shareholders' equity on one side, and that is money you got to pay your bills and money you owe to the owners, and assets on the other side. And those two have to balance. And if they go out of balance in one direction or another, company's in trouble. Because if you increase your assets, the shareholders are supposed to get more. If you have too many liabilities and you don't have enough assets, you're insolvent. This is why a lot of the argument going on between black women and black men about who's broke is really dumb. Because if you looked at all our personal balance sheets, and the rest of the world is looking like you're all insolvent. You haven't solved your main problem. We're not taking any of you seriously. However, the capitalist powers that be are paying attention that one half of the black race of adults is doing a little bit better than the other half. But it doesn't have to be that way, because I just told you what you needed to do. Small, consistent ways to decrease debt, or at least to keep it at a manageable level. Because again, we're in a recession. You're in the situation you're in. If you need to spend money to get out of a situation, you need to rely on a credit card, because that's when you are okay. But learn. It doesn't cost you anything but time. Learn how to do different. Learn how to get to the other side of that calculation. Do it consistently and see what comes up. Because when you learn how to do this consistently, opportunities for you to do more begin to come in your direction. If you keep doing what you're doing, you keep getting what you're getting. As Einstein said, doing the same thing and expecting different results is insanity. But as you begin to change what you learned this year, as you begin to make small, consistent moves, more materials will be applied. I'm a witness. I'm a witness to that. My suggestion for 2023, take your mind off of all the big movements that people are doing. Just take your mind off of that. What are you doing? A little story about a very successful man who succeeded where 5 people before him failed, who succeeded with the same rough resources that they had, but he just had a different mindset. He came into a situation where the people he was leading were totally embarrassed, completely demoralized. Their opponent was one of those men who didn't have as much to work with, but was beating them with most of the times half as much of the stuff. Just there was no quit in him yet. And there would be no quit in him until he realized truly there is nothing else for me to do. So when Ulysses S. Grant became the commanding general of the Army of the Potomac, Everybody came through and talked about this movement, this force of military nature known as Robert E. Lee, and what this man had done and what he was likely to do. And Grant basically told them, I'm so tired of hearing about what Lee is going to do. Y'all think this man is going to jump a triple somersault and be on all sides of our army at once. And by the way, Lee had jumped a double somersault on General Hooker, one of General Grant's predecessors. He beat the army more than twice his size. So the double somersault had been done several times. But Grant's like, I don't care. Stop worrying about what Lee is going to do and let's get focused on what we're going to do. And step by steady step, movement by movement, battle by battle, Grant kept in mind what he was doing. And Lee had even said about him, Grant has an iron will. Basically, if we don't whip him or kill him, we're not going to be able to keep him out of Richmond. He is going to get to the capital of the Confederacy and wipe us out. If I can't figure out how to do this by the summer of 1864, it will not be done. Well, guess what? I'm standing here free today because Grant refocused the Army of the Potomac and the Union on what it was doing. Step by consistent, bloody, difficult step. In the middle of the Civil War. But Grant won, and Lee ran out of options and surrendered. Now, if you can do it in the middle of the Civil War, shout out to the United States colored troops, of which Ulysses S. Grant and Abraham Lincoln said they were the best troops there were. And for those 180,000 men, for those of you who think black men ain't never done, no, you don't know enough history, you ignorant. And for all the black women who nursed these men whose names are not written because white women certainly wouldn't and white men wouldn't have the time. And for them too. Harriet Tubman worked as both a spy and a nurse at different times, and there were many others. They had to deal with the Civil War. Y'all sit up here talking about the recession. That was the biggest movement in American history to that point. Step by consistent step. Our ancestors and those who were white men and women who were the peers of Ulysses S. Grant made it step by step from 1864 in May to April 1865 and got that victory. And on June 19th, 1865, the victory finally reached where my folks are from, in Texas. And now, Juneteenth is a national holiday as well. Step by consistent step, day after day. It may be bloody, ugly, unsafe. Sometimes you still have to do it. Don't worry about all the big movements and currents around you. Figure out how to build a boat. And you row that boat. Row, row, row your boat gently up the stream. Merrily, 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 merrily. Life is not a dream. But the point is, the first part of the song was true. If you're going to get up the stream, you got to build a boat and row it. So, this year, don't worry about the big movements and things around you so much. Worry isn't doing anything for you. Take that energy and make step by slow, consistent step. And you will find that your life will begin to change for the better. No matter what the big movements around you are, nobody is in a position to stop you from bettering your life. Except, of course, the weaker, more frightened version of yourself. All right. Y'all have a good day now. I still gotta get my walk done while we above water still. Because tomorrow it's starting again, and next week, the sun will be shining, but the high temperature is going to be 38. I actually want to see that. San Francisco with a high temperature of 38. That's history. But if I try to do too much in weather like that, I'll be history. So I got to get my walk done today. But y'all have a good day now. Thank you for listening. Goodbye.